Hi, I'm Lawrence Parker Brown. Welcome to the Inside Network. Delighted to be joined for an in-depth by two experts, and we're going to try and explore their case study and what it tells us about the hybrid investment solutions thesis. Craig Schweighoffer from York Street Brands and Daniel Chersky from Alceon. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Craig, let's start with your story. For advisors, asset consultants, researchers watching this, if they've not heard of York Street Brands, what's the 30-second elevator pitch?
Oh, thank you. Great to be here. So look, York Street Brands is in health and wellness. They may not have heard of York Street Brands as such, but we've got three brands. The first is Boost Lab, is a brand that I found with my wife, Lisa. Skincare that's focused on the 45 plus female market, about accessibility, providing great skincare at an affordable price. The second brand is the Breakout Hack, which is found by Rachel and Bridget. They found in 2020, same as Boost Lab. Mm-hmm. And in 2023, we merged together to create York Street Brands. So the Breakout Hack is for acne-prone skin, uses some incredible technology which attacks the bacteria from under the biofilm. And then together as a brand, as York Street Brands, we created a third brand called Boof, which is around hair loss, hair thinning. And that's York Street Brands. So we're in 4,000 or over 4,000 retail places in Australia. New Zealand, we're strong and just launched into the UK with Boots Pharmacy.
So we'll come to the role of Daniel and Alceon. Take us back in time to where you were before you decided to explore what external capital would look like. Yeah. What problem were you trying to solve, Craig?
So we were growing at pace, I guess. So when we first merged in 2023, combined revenue was like $5 million. From there, we grew in a pretty short time frame to $30 million in FY25. Looking to, I guess, take advantage of the opportunity that was in front of us, and that was, our customers were asking for new products. So how do we fund, a whole stack of new products? We're looking to open up into the UK with Boots Pharmacy. We wanted to build out our management team. So all that comes at obviously a cost of capital that we, whilst we're profitable, to continue to grow at that pace and do all these things that needed further working capital. And that's what brought us to Daniel.
Well, Daniel, a great segue. You must look at so many different opportunities in the domestic market. What was it about York Street Brands that drew you in?
Yeah, we're aware of Craig and what he was building with Boost Labs and scaling that quite nicely. And Craig's a terrific founder that's had multiple successful exits in the consumer space, so naturally someone we wanted to work with. But really, it was that merger with TBH that really excited us because we saw a marriage made in heaven. The perfect combination of youth and experience, product and marketing, and that's when we really were excited to get involved.
So Craig, as you've touched on, you've worked with Alceon as a capital partner. As part of your due diligence, what were you looking for in that partnership, and was there anything you were afraid of?
I wouldn't say afraid, but I guess what we were trying to do was work out a way how we could fund the growth. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. One's through bank debt, which obviously have some covenants there, which I guess whilst we would have accepted is not ideal in a fast-growing agile business. The second one is through equity, and we're talking to a number of private equity firms, which our concern right there was about changing the dynamics of the business. We've got a good board, we've got a good bunch of shareholders who are very supportive. We had a good management team. I just didn't want to upset those dynamics. So the third was, what does a hybrid kind of solution look like? And that's when we talked to Alceon, and that was obviously really attractive to us.
Daniel, that leads us perfectly to the relationship and how you came into the picture. Could you talk to the hybrid solution that you built, what that looks like?
Yeah, as Craig said, there were a few options for them as a high growth business. Bank debt is one of them, but it didn't really respond to the needs of the business. Very dynamic industry, growing fast into new markets and launching new brands. The restrictions and limitations that come with bank debt are not ideal for that environment. And then ordinary equity, apart from changing the dynamic in the business, is also quite dilutive. And so as we looked forward 2 or 3 years, business nicely profitable and growing in its profitability, the hybrid solution that sat between bank debt and equity suited them quite nicely. And it also aligned us together as partners in both benefiting in the growth of the business.
Now, Craig, when you first met Daniel and the team at Alceon, what were the sort of questions in your brain and what gave you confidence that this was going to be a really good fit?
Look, obviously we questioned, what does good look like for us? And we had pretty clear understanding of what it was. We knew that we could repay debt, in a couple of years' time. So for us, it was like, how flexible are these? Is it going to be a cookie cutter approach or, just ticking the boxes, or would Alceon work with us to come up with a solution that was right for us? And the answer is yes, they did. And here we are.
So Daniel, when you were doing that due diligence, there's not only the balance sheet and thinking about the projections, but it's also the team. What was it that gave you confidence that you wanted to work with Craig and his team?
Yeah, so once we agreed terms, we went into a 4-week pretty intensive due diligence period. And, obviously the business fundamentals and ticking all that off is critically important. But equally as important is the team, particularly for a high growth business like this. So we spent many hours in face-to-face meetings with Craig and his management team, and pleasingly it validated what we thought, which not only do we have a really strong business here, but an incredibly talented management team that we wanted to back and be in business with.
Now, Craig, when you were exploring what this would look like, you also had to have thought, what's this capital going to achieve for us? What were the sort of, the goals for deploying the capital? What was it going to bring to York Street Brands?
Probably 3 main things. The first thing is mainly comfort around our balance sheet and that we had working capital to grow. In terms of specifics, we could open up the UK. So we're just launching the Boots Pharmacy. That's obviously an overinvest in the short term to get that right. And our goal is when we enter a new market is to own the category. So we want to achieve that like we've done in Australia. So, open up the UK market, bring out all the new product we had in motion, and pretty much fast track that. So whatever our consumers were asking for, fast track that and bring that to market as soon as we could. And lastly is build out a management team. So, be able to afford to bring onto the team senior leaders who could take us to the next level. So we've achieved all those things.
It's presumably there's a challenge as a founder, taking on the capital, different brains getting involved. What was the hardest part? And was there ever a sense where you sort of thought, I'm not so sure this is the way to go?
No, I wouldn't say so. Like it's a matter of backing your people and your numbers and your platform that you've built. So okay, we've got 3 brands, but we've also got an incredible infrastructure and an incredible team that are executing. So backing your people and your model and your retail partners and having some comfort around that. So there wasn't any doubt or concerns as such as how much working capital we need. Can we afford to repay it in 2 years' time? Worst case scenario. And then, get on with it.
So Daniel, if I think about where you sit now, what does it look like post the capital deployment? How are you still working together? Presumably there's a financial element, but also do you think of yourselves as partners?
Yeah, I mean, we like to bring a partnership approach to all our counterparties. So what does that look like post deployment? We like to stay very close to the situation, but also not overstep. So in this case, Craig and his management team, they're the single biggest shareholders in this business, and they're the industry experts. So we're not there to second guess their judgment or their day-to-day decisions. We're there to provide strategic advice and support as and when required. Obviously we have our quarterly catch-ups on the numbers and the budget, but Craig and I tend to speak much more frequently than that on all the things that that can help the business going forward, because we are partners.
You obviously look at the whole landscape, Daniel. If I think about this partnership as opposed to a traditional lender, is there anything that's different that York Street Brands and yourselves have been able to achieve together that under a traditional model wouldn't have been so easy?
Yeah, I guess if you look at a traditional lender, the only lens they bring is, are we going to get repaid? And not really interested in the equity value or the growth story of the business, because they're not aligned to that. With the hybrid solution, yes, piece of capital sits as debt in the capital structure, but more than that, we're aligned on the equity story here, and the real return upside in our investment is if the value of the business grows. So obviously we bring a different lens to that investment, and so that gives rise to that sort of partnership mentality.
Craig, has there been anything that surprised you around working with Alceon and the relationship you formed?
Look, I think to start with, I don't think I've touched on this before, but the flexibility that they've shown. Yeah, it was surprising. I just had no idea that we could, basically come up with a solution that was good for us, but, Alceon could make work, and ticked all their boxes as well. And I think other than that, it's probably going through the comprehensive due diligence that was part of this deal, which was a good discipline for us. And then post that, we've got, a good model in place and a reporting and dashboard in place that again, it's good discipline for us as a growing business that's come from founder-led in 2020 to a significant size now.
So let's just follow that idea. You've come a long way through this partnership. What do you see as being the key things that Capital's unlocked? You touched on access to new markets, a stronger management team. Is there anything else that you sort of feel has made you a stronger business?
Well, I think it's probably the ability to make decisions without worrying about working capital. So positive decisions for the business, not being ad hoc, but if there's an opportunity that's in front of you, we've got sufficient working capital to have a go. But, more back to the original plan, it's like, let's be successful in the UK. Let's get this new product to market now for our consumers in the Australian marketplace. We've ticked all those boxes, and we've now got, a really senior leadership team that can execute and take us to the next level. So look, I've repeated all this, but they're the three things we set out to achieve, and we've done it.
Fantastic. So Daniel, when you think more broadly about the hybrid solution that you've offered and that thesis, what does this partnership teach you?
Yeah, I think this is a great case study for the need, I suppose, or the opportunity in the market for a flexible capital source that responds to the situation and the desires of the business owner like Craig. There's opportunity there, and we want to lead that market.
Outstanding. Final question for you, Craig. Anyone watching this that might be a small, medium enterprise owner in that founder's shoes, what advice do you have for them about your experience and what this partnership is showing you?
I think it's, again, coming back to us, like there was an opportunity in front of us. We wanted to take advantage of it. These opportunities do pass. So if other founders or businesses are like us, they have an opportunity and, they're looking for a solution for equity or a fund to fund the business, then there are solutions out there. And for us, the hybrid solution with Alceon was perfect for us.
It's been perfect for Craig. Daniel, if you just reflect back, obviously it's an ongoing partnership, but going back to when you first got in touch and everything you've done since, what has it shown you about this model, how Alceon operates, and the things you can do moving forward?
Yeah, it just shows the power of being able to bring a bespoke solution to a situation and unlock the potential of an investment opportunity, but a business opportunity. So we're very pleased to be able to do that for York Street Brands, and hope that we can help many other businesses with that sort of outside of the box solution that might work for them.
It's clearly a partnership that's flourishing, and we're delighted to have these insights, and I hope it continues to do so. Craig and Daniel, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.